The earliest days of banking were far more dangerous than people imagine. Money wasn't protected by technology, alarms, or systems. It was protected by fear and a guard standing outside a building with nothing more than a spear. Before vaults existed, wealth was stored in temples. Not because they were holy sanctuaries, but because criminals were afraid of being cursed. Fear served as the first security mechanism in financial history. If you compare that to the complex digital banking in America today, the idea sounds almost unbelievable. An entire society trusting curses for protection? Definitely not a reliable strategy, so communities upgraded, they hired guards. Real humans, but humans came with vulnerabilities. Guards got distracted. They panicked. Some accepted bribes. And a few even disappeared right before a robbery happened. Security, at that time, depended entirely on human honesty. And honesty wasn't exactly the strongest shield against organized crime, because crime was evolving. Thieves learned strategies. They formed groups. They developed methods. Every time bank security improved, criminals countered with something more clever. This ongoing battle shaped the birth of the first real vaults. Ancient Rome pushed security forward. They built strong metal chests. They invented early locking mechanisms. They created systems that made robbery far more difficult. But these early locks had their problems. Some were so complicated that the owners themselves forgot how to open them. Imagine forgetting the passcode to a vault in a world without customer support. As economies expanded, criminal operations expanded too. Robbers no longer worked alone, they planned. They trained, they infiltrated. This pushed medieval Europe to build bank-like structures that looked more like military bases. Thick walls, iron bars, heavy doors. The kind of architecture designed to intimidate anyone even thinking about stealing. Yet criminals adapted again. They invented tunnel robberies, digging underground for months just to reach hidden vaults. Time-consuming, risky, but often successful. This was the moment banks realized that physical strength alone wasn't enough. If criminals could think creatively, banks had to think smarter. So they layered security, multiple locks, more guards, reinforced walls, new methods to create fear and deterrence. But even with all that, it still wasn't enough. Criminal networks kept growing. Weapons evolved. And one invention escalated the threat to an entirely new level. Gunpowder. Explosives made physical vaults vulnerable. A well-planned blast could open even the strongest door of that era. This forced banks to redesign vaults with thicker steel and shock-resistant structures. The war between criminals and banks became more technical. It shifted from brute force to engineering. Who could innovate faster? Who understood materials better? Who could outthink the other? This competition pushed society into the era of mechanical security. An era that would soon introduce combination locks, industrial vaults, and advanced protection systems. The rise of mechanical engineering in the 1800s changed the entire game. Banks were no longer relying on muscle and stone walls. They were relying on machines. And criminals absolutely hated it. Combination locks became the new superstar of bank security. A device so simple yet so brilliant that even expert thieves struggled. Spin the dial wrong by one number and the vault stays locked forever. Spin it right and you're holding the key to a fortune. But of course, criminals didn't just give up. They studied locks like students preparing for finals. Hours of listening, tapping, and decoding tiny clicks. Sometimes they succeeded. Most times, not really. Because vault makers quickly developed silent locks. Locks with fake clicks. Locks that confused even the smartest lockpickers. This was when the real arms race began. Banks invested in steel vaults so massive that transportation alone took days. The USA, especially during the industrial boom, became obsessed with protecting money. And who wouldn't be? The economy was exploding, investments were rising, and cash flow was increasing like never before. With great money comes great motivation for crime. So banks went bigger. Thicker steel, fire-resistant layers, reinforced foundations that could survive explosions. But wait, what about earthquakes? What about fires? What about inside jobs? Yes, inside jobs. The most dangerous threat a bank could ever face. Because no vault is safe when the criminal already has the key. Banks began running deep background checks. They monitored employee behavior. They recorded financial patterns. Basically, they invented early versions of what we now call surveillance analytics. Still, criminals adapted. They used disguises. They used forged documents. They even impersonated bank staff. And banks responded with the next big leap: the alarm system. The first alarms were so simple they'd make modern security experts laugh. A metal wire connected to a bell. Cut the wire, and the bell rang even if nobody heard it. But America's growing cities needed better. So electrical alarm systems arrived: motion sensors, pressure plates, glass break detectors. Technology was officially joining the fight. Suddenly, robbing a bank wasn't just risky. It was nearly impossible. Nearly. Because whenever banks created a new technology, criminals invented a new workaround. It was almost like both sides were quietly competing for the title of most innovative. Then came the biggest disruptor of the 20th century: cameras. Surveillance changed everything. For the first time, crimes could be recorded, replayed, and studied. Masks didn't always help. Hoodies didn't always hide. Criminals now had to worry not just about being caught, but being seen. It's funny how people still try to hide from cameras today, even though there are more cameras than humans in most cities. But just when the world thought cameras were enough, something darker appeared: the digital era. Banks were no longer just protecting vaults. They were protecting data, passwords, accounts, transfers, digital footprints. And cybercriminals were waiting like sharks that smelled fresh blood. Bank robberies moved from guns to keyboards, from getaway cars to hidden servers, from physical threats to invisible ones. A hacker sitting alone in a room could now cause more damage than an entire gang with weapons. That's the scary part. But the exciting part? Banks were getting smarter too. They built firewalls, encryption systems, and multi-factor authentication. They transformed physical security into a digital fortress. They hired cybersecurity experts, modern-day knights who fought code instead of criminals. But even all this wasn't enough, because the next revolution would change everything again. A revolution that blends machine intelligence with human instinct. Artificial intelligence. AI didn't just enter banking security. It took over the entire battlefield. For the first time in history, banks had a system that could think faster than criminals. A system that didn't sleep, didn't panic, didn't fall for bribes, didn't forget passwords, and definitely didn't get tired during a night shift. I became the guard that never blinks. It started with fraud detection. AI scanned thousands of transactions every second. Patterns no human could notice, AI picked them instantly. A sudden purchase in another state? Flagged. Multiple login attempts at 3 a.m.? Locked. A transaction pattern that feels even slightly suspicious? Shut down before the criminal even celebrates. Criminals were confused. They weren't used to fighting something that predicts their moves before they make them. And it didn't stop there. Facial recognition came next. Cameras in modern banks can now detect known criminals, even if they try to hide under caps or masks. AI maps micro-movements, body language, and behavioral patterns. Imagine walking into a bank and I already knows if you're nervous for normal reasons or plotting something dangerous. Creepy? A little. Effective? Absolutely. Then came biometric security, fingerprints, iris scans, voice recognition, vein mapping. Even if someone steals your card, your password, or your entire identity, they still can't steal your eyes or your fingerprints. Well, they could, but that would be a whole different documentary. Banks didn't just protect vaults anymore. They protected identities. Next evolution: AI-powered cybersecurity defense grids. These systems detect malware before it activates. They hunt intruders inside the network. They seal off vulnerable areas in milliseconds. It's like the bank has a digital immune system. But the most advanced layer? Predictive intelligence. AI can analyze global criminal trends. It can predict what type of attack will happen next. It can identify unusual employee behavior. It can forecast new fraud techniques before they appear publicly. It's basically running the future in its mind and preparing for threats before humans even imagine them. And as digital banking grows, AI becomes the heart of financial safety. Online transfers, mobile banking, crypto storage, digital wallets. All of them rely on smart algorithms guarding the perimeter 24/7. But here's the interesting twist. Even with all this technology, the war between banks and criminals hasn't ended. It has simply changed shape. Criminals are now using AI too. Deep fake voices, fake identities, automated hacking tools. Scams that sound more human than actual humans. The battlefield is no longer physical. It's invisible, silent, fast, and happening every millisecond. But despite everything, banks still have the advantage. Because they're backed by something criminals don't have: global networks, government-level cybersecurity, billions in tech investment, and AI systems that improve themselves daily. From ancient guards with spears, to steel vaults and mechanical locks, to cameras and cybersecurity, to intelligent machines that learn the behavior of every criminal on Earth. Bank security has traveled a long, dangerous, and fascinating path. And today, the real question isn't how banks protect money. It's how far AI will go to protect the future of finance. Maybe one day, vaults won't need passwords. Maybe banks won't even need buildings. Maybe your entire identity will be guarded by an AI companion that knows every transaction you make. Exciting? Yes. Terrifying? Also yes, but one thing is clear. The history of bank security isn't finished. It's just entering its most advanced chapter. If you want more deep dives into the hidden world of finance, crime, and technology, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone who loves financial mysteries as much as you do. Your support helps us uncover more stories the world rarely talks about. Stay safe, stay smart, and I'll see you in the next one.